Hello.
How do you do?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Excellent. Bit nervous. First time.
Yeah, same for me.
Okay.
Welcome to IETF then. Deborah, can you test your audio, please? I think we need you to, we can hear you and you can hear us, so.
Can I get a sound check from somebody?
Yes, we can hear you.
Talk?
Can you hear us?
Guys, I have a problem where I can talk, but I can't hear you guys at all.
That's unfortunate.
All right, I'm going to try another computer. I'll be back.
While we're waiting, I just want to check that you can hear me as well.
Yes, but you sound very robotic on my end, at least.
All right.
Yeah,
I log
same
out.
here.
I'll log out and see if I can get it better then. Thanks. Better like this? Great.
Much better.
Do you need us to cut the video feeds to leave more room for the slides, or?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay.
If you're presenting or talking, you could turn them back on though.
Just making a bit of sound in case Deborah needs to verify her audio.
I guess we should probably ask Meet Echo for a feature request on, background music from Spotify or something like that. For those who just joined, we're kind of waiting for the primary presenter, Debra, to resolve her sound issues before starting the meeting, because if she still has some sound issues, we will have problems with the whole meeting. So
I'm doing a
Let's-
sound check here. Can you guys hear me?
yes, we can hear you. Do
And
you
I can hear
us?
you now.
Oh,
I'm using
fantastic.
I'm using my backup laptop, so this is going to be weird because my speaker notes are on my regular one. So I don't know if you want my camera on. I'm afraid that if I have my camera on, it's going to. So I'm going to leave my camera off, if that's okay.
No
And,
problem.
Um,
Let's start the meeting. We're like 10 minutes late.
sorry,
now, so.
sorry. I should have fixed this yesterday, but I had no way to check it. So
Yeah, well, I sent you an URL, but anyway. Joe, could you start?
Yes, I'll get started. So, welcome to our first meeting for EDIINT. Here's the note well. It covers the IETF's policies on conduct, privacy, and IPR. By participating, you agree to follow these processes and policies. Some tips for the meeting. Try to keep your audio and video off unless you're presenting. Use of a headset is recommended. And before you speak, please state your name. Resources for this meeting. I put the link to Notepad there. If somebody could be willing to take some notes and minutes for this meeting, that would be great. Just capturing a high-level summary and decisions. We have 90 minutes for today's agenda. We'll start with a charter review, and then I'll pass it off to Deborah to do the technical discussion for the draft. After that, we'll talk about some next steps. Here's an overview of the charter. I'll give you a second to read it over if you haven't seen it before. All right. Now for the background, like the overview, I'll give you a second to read this before moving on. All right. The goals and scope for the working group. The first one will be update RFC 4130 to reflect current practices and recommendations. In doing so, we'll align with current internet and security practices, update references, and replacing outdated dependencies, along with improving clarity in the message structure, signatures, receipts, and error handling. The second goal is to clarify backwards compatibility. So in defining this guidance, we're ensuring that existing AS2 deployments continue operating without disruption. The backwards compatibility will preserve operational continuity and migration paths, but does not guarantee interoperability across all legacy features and security levels. And then the final goal is to clarify and extend functionality by incorporating operational experience and the lessons learned from the past 2 decades of AS2 deployments, document best practices, identify our interoperability challenges, and finally, informational extensions to improve operational usability and integration. Although these are optional. We have 2 deliverables. The first being a standards track document that updates RFC 4130. And then there are these optional informational documents. These can cover best practices, migration strategies, and describing interoperability. What's out of scope for the working group? Development of new EDI or new transport protocols, changes that'll break backwards compatibility with existing AS2 deployments. However, that does not include the required security or standards alignment. AS1 and AS3 will not be addressed. And updating or obsoleting RFC 6017 and 6362 are out of scope for the working group. And the timeline for our milestones. We're looking to shoot for a working group adoption of the RFC 4130 biz by Q2 of 2026. This will get us to hopefully to working group last call by the 4th quarter of 2026, and then request publication by Q2 of 2027. That is all of our slides. Before I pass it off to Deborah, did anybody have any questions before doing so? All right. Deborah, I'm going to pull up your slides. Did you want to control them, or did you want me to click through them for you?
Would you click through them for me, and then I will, I'll just say next slide.
Yes, of course.
Okay, thanks.
All right. You should see them now.
I see it.
Perfect.
Okay. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the RFC 4130 BIS EDIINT Working Group presentation. I'm Deborah Petta from Drummond Group. We'll be spending this time today going through a detailed review of the AS2 modernization specification. The goal today is to get working group consensus on the direction and key decisions we need to make together. Next slide. So here's our presentation plan. We'll start with a brief introduction and context, then an overview of the changes. The core presentation is the section by section review. That's where we'll walk through the specification in detail. We've built into this discussion breaks throughout, so please feel free to raise questions or concerns at the end of each section. We'll wrap up with backward compatibility, IANA considerations, and next steps. Next slide. Okay, so for those who weren't at the dispatch presentation last summer, let me recap why we're doing this. AS2 is widely adopted across industries, but RFC 4130 was published in July of 2005. That's over 20 years ago. So look at what's changed in the security landscape. MD5 was broken with collision attacks in 2004. SHA-1 was broken in 2017. Triple DES was deprecated by the NST in 2017. TLS 1.0 and 1.1 was prohibited by the major browsers in 2020. So new implementations struggle with interoperability because the current specification references these insecure algorithms. There are ambiguities in protocol details. And there's missing documentation of widely used features like compression, AS2 reliability and restart, SEM, file name preservation, and multiple attachments. The AS2 community has been requesting these updates for some time, and we need to maintain the specification's authority and trust. So, next slide. So the progress that we've made since last summer. So last summer, we made a presentation to the dispatch at IETF 128, and we've made significant progress since then. Since that time, we formed an advisory group with some of the major vendors through Drummond Group, collected detailed implementation feedback, drafted a complete specification update, and it's available at Data Tracker at that link that you see there. We've shared the proposed updates with the AS2 community and the EDIINT BOF and now the working group, and incorporated their feedback. I've established a GitHub repository for community collaboration, and that's at this link you see here under the GitHub. So today what we're planning to do, or we want to do, is get your detailed feedback and consensus on the direction that we're taking. Next slide. So our guiding principles. Before we dive into the details, let me emphasize our guiding principles. First and most importantly, we must maintain backward compatibility with no breaking changes so that the previous RFC 4130 implementations still remain valid. This is our paramount principle. Everything else flows from this commitment. Second is the security modernization. We're updating to modern algorithms and providing clear deprecation guidance while maintaining interoperability paths for legacy systems. Third, clarification over innovation. We're documenting existing practices that vendors have already implemented and proven in their production environments. We're not inventing new protocols. Fourth, this is a community-driven effort. This reflects real implementation experience from our advisory group and the broader AS2 community. Next slide. Okay, so so now let's look at the high-level overview of what's changed. Next slide. Okay, so this is the category of the changes. We've organized into eight different categories. First is the SMTP de-emphasis. All SMTP specific requirements have been removed. RFC 4130 BIS is HTTP centric. Second, we've updated the normative references. We've added SMIME 4.0, updated the MDN the MDN specifications and added the modern cryptographic standards. Third is the algorithm modernization. It's a completely new section with explicit must, should, and deprecated requirements. Fourth is protocol clarifications. This is a new this includes a new AS2 version value of either 1.3 or 2.0. There's a new AS2 product header and the proposed AS2 get method. We've included feature documentation. This includes certificate exchange messaging, AS2 reliability, AS2 restart, compression, file name preservation, and multiple attachments. These are all optional features that are currently implemented by the broader AS2 community. Next is we've enhanced the disposition modifiers. So we've included references for MDNs to include more extensions for better error reporting. Next is security enhancements. We've added new HTTPS TLS section, certificate handling, and cipher suite guidance. And then finally, we've improved the examples. All message examples have been updated to use modern algorithms instead of old MD5, SHA-1, and triple DES examples. And as I've gotten some comments, we can include more examples as we move forward. Next slide. So this slide captures our philosophy. On the left, what we're not doing. We're not breaking existing implementations. We're not forcing immediate migration to new algorithms. We're not inventing new protocol features. We're not ignoring legacy systems. And we're not making optional features mandatory. On the right side, what we are doing, we're providing a clear upgrade path for implementers who want to modernize. We're documenting current best practices based on 20 years of implementation experience. We're setting modern algorithm baselines for new implementations. We're maintaining interoperability between legacy and modern systems, and we're clarifying the ambiguities that have caused real interoperability problems. This is evolution, not revolution. Are there any concerns about this overall approach before we dive into the section-by-section details? Nope. Okay, let's move forward. Next slide. Now we get into the detailed section-by-section review. I'll walk through the original RFC 4130 and show you exactly what has changed in the RFC 4130 BIS. Next section. There we go, next slide. So starting with the abstract, for the original RFC 4130, the abstract says describes how to exchange structured business data securely using HTTP transfer protocol instead of SMTP. It's positioned as an SMTP alternative. It has heavy and perhaps confusing AS1 references. It has very SMTP-centric framing with prominent references to RFC 3335, which is the AS1 specification. In the updated RFC 4130 BIS, the abstract says, describes how to securely exchange structured business data over HTTP, period. It stands on its own with no AS1 comparison. It clearly states it obsoletes 4130, and let me be clear with what obsoletes means. It means RFC 4130 BIS becomes the authoritative specification, the canonical reference, but it's backward compatible, and it updates the IANA registries from RFC 3335 and RFC 4130. The critical point is obsoletes does not mean RFC 4130 implementations will stop working. It means RFC 4130 BIS is the new authoritative document. Next slide. So this introduction section follows the same pattern. The original RFC 4130 from July 2005 focused on SMTP AS1 comparisons throughout, and it used the 2005 security standards. The updated RFC 4130 BIS provides a clear statement. This document is a revision, or a BIS, of RFC 4130. It obsoletes 4130 and becomes the authoritative specification. This is critical, and you will hear me continue to state this. Implementations conformant with RFC 4130 will remain valid. It incorporates more than 20 years of implementation experience and documented features. It has been updated with modern security requirements. It has added an RFC 2119 keyword section with must, should, may definitions, and it has new backward compatibility section with detailed information in Appendix B. These are the key takeaways highlighted on this slide. New implementers can pick up RFC 4130 BIS and build fully compatible systems. If your system conforms to RFC 4130, it will conform to RFC 4130 BIS. We haven't invalidated anything. Next slide. Okay, so the major change is the AS1 SMTP de-emphasis. This is a significant structural change, and this is our rationale. AS2 has evolved independently from AS1 over the past 20 years. Most implementations today have no SMTP or AS1 component whatsoever. References to AS1 cause confusion for new implementers who are building HTTP-only systems. HTTP and HTTPS are the primary transports. MIME encoding requirements for email transmission are unnecessary. So the impact is a cleaner, more focused specification that's easier for HTTP-only developers to understand. We still maintain IANA registry compatibility where needed for historical reasons. This is important to note. This is not a protocol change. This is a documentation clarity. We're removing confusing references that don't apply to HTTP-based AS2. Next slide. So this is a quick overview of the key normative reference updates. SMIME 3.1 has been moved to SMIME 4.0, and it adds the auth enveloped data support for authenticated encryption. RFC 3798 has moved to RFC 8998 for MDN, providing clarifications and fixes. RFC 2822 moved to RFC 5322 for email format. It's an updated standard. RFC 2119 and 8174 has been added for keyword definitions, RFC keyword definitions. We've added RFC 5751 for SMIME 3.2 backward compatibility guidance. These updates bring us to the current IETF standards. Next slide. So the new compatibility for SMIME 4.0 has been added. Let me explain why SMIME 4.0 matters. Excuse me. The problem with SMIME 3X is that enveloped data provides encryption only. If you want integrity protection, you need a separate digital signature. That's a two-step process: sign, then encrypt, or encrypt, then sign. The SMIME 4.0 solution provides an auth envelope data CMS object. Authenticated encryption is one operation. It supports AES GCM and AES CCM, which are authenticated encryption modes. It provides better performance and stronger security guarantees. A single cryptographic operation provides both confidentiality and integrity. So the RFC 4130 BIS requirements, implementations must support SMIME 4.0. Implementations may support SMIME 3.2 for backward compatibility. So when both partners support SMIME 4.0, you would use the auth envelope data CMS object. When dealing with a legacy partner, you can fall back to the envelope data with separate signatures. Are there any questions about that so far?
This is Eric. I have some questions. I'm not good enough on auth envelope data to know. When we send today, we typically can encrypt for several receivers and sign with the sending. So we sign with the sender's key and we encrypt for several receivers and send.
Right.
Will that work with auth envelope data as well?
I believe it does. I actually read through that specification yesterday to make sure I understood it fully, and it appears to be the same and we can work through that together. But I think it does.
Okay.
It does.
Okay.
Okay. I'm confused about the part of this slide that contradicts the previous slide, where you say SMIME 3X is not going to be referenced.
No, it is referenced. It's referenced for backward compatibility.
The previous slide said it was not.
Can we go back to the previous slide and look at that?
See the bottom row? Not referenced.
So in the original RFC 4130, it was not referenced.
I see what you're saying. Okay,
So
now I understand it.
We've added it in this spec to say that we will be using 3.2 for backward compatibility. So you support both. You can support both.
Thank you.
Mark here, as co-chair of the meeting, please use the end so we can cue everybody for going forward. So I did put my hand up. You say must support SMIME 4, may support SMIME 3.2. And when you say for backward compatibility, do you mean supporting original RFC 4130?
Yes.
Okay, so then why don't we do that in the sense of the following, which is only use SMIME 3.2 for peers that are RFC 4130 original, but always use SMIME 4.0 for the new spec. And I reference here in the sense that you having an appendix at the end of your draft about interrupt stuff. That should be only there, right? Do we agree or?
Yeah, that was my intention of what I'm saying here. That you would use 3.2 for backward compatibility.
For only original RC 4130.
Right, or anybody who still hasn't implemented 4.0. And if you at least my understanding of the spec, because I haven't done the implementation yet, everything that's in 4.0 is also or everything that's in 3.2 is included in 4.0. The only, at least from my understanding, again, I haven't done the implementation, is that 4.0 includes the new auth envelope data CMS object. And we'll get into, I'll talk about this in a few slides going forward. So if you want, let's keep moving, and then maybe we can firm it up in some slides later. I know that I have a slide. I don't know how far it is in the future, but we have a slide that talks about how you would handle the compatibility between 3.2.
Okay, sure. Well, just the last point. I think you made that point. I remember reading your draft when you say there's an idea of having two different documents and for updates, clarifications of the original one, and then a new version. And you put this as you say. I don't know if you removed that text, but it's been like a month or two when I read it. And then you said, I'm trying to do this in a single document. I'm maybe as a chair, I'm kind of wary about making sure that we're having a clear spec for the new version, which is not, kind of going over and people are kind of confused about what needs to be done for the new version. So that's kind of my macro comment. So okay. I'm shutting up now, but let's making sure that the way it's written, if it's in only one document, that we have a clear understanding of of the new protocol. That's and then we're kind of making the threshold higher in terms of the new protocol for that this is what you have to do, and that's it.
Right, but and my full intention is by doing this is we want to be backward compatible because not everybody's going to move at the same speed. And we cannot, under any circumstances, break AS2. We've got too many implementations out in the market. If somebody makes a change, then all of a sudden people stop working with each other. AS2 is going to get abandoned. That was my whole attention with this, is that
of course, but that's a slightly different discussion in terms of document writing, if you
sure,
in some ways.
Okay, and this is my first stab at writing documents, and I can make changes as we need to make sure that it's as clear as possible, and even if it takes a few permutations to get through it. Okay. All right, so let's move to slide 15, which is the algorithm requirements, the section divider. Okay, so now we're going to get to the heart of the modernization, which is our algorithm requirements. This is an entirely new section in the RFC 4130 BIS. Next slide, please. So why did we add this new section? The problem in the original RFC 4130 was the algorithm guidance was scattered throughout the document. There were vague recommendations. SHA 1 is recommended. There's no clear must, should, may requirements. The deprecated algorithms like MD5 and triple DES were not explicitly called out as problematic. And there was no guidance on modern algorithms. The new AES, GCM, and SHA 256 weren't even mentioned. So the solution in the RFC 4130 BIS is a dedicated section stating the algorithm requirements, clear normative requirements using RFC 2119 keywords, separate subsections for hash algorithms, encryption, key transport, and signatures, explicit deprecation statements, and backward compatibility handled separately within Appendix B. The result, no ambiguity about what to support. That's the goal. Next slide, please. So these are the hash algorithms, as you'll see on the left. We've got the MD5 was allowed, SHA 1 was recommended. There was no mention of stronger algorithms. In the RFC 4130 BIS, it's been completely flipped. MD5 and SHA 1 are deprecated. Conforming implementations must not generate them. SHA 256 is a must support. SHA 384 and SHA 512 are should support. So why deprecate SHA 1? Because practical collisions exist. NIST formally deprecated SHA 1 for digital signatures back in 2011. So we're 15 years behind the curve. So as a clarification for backward compatibility, you can still accept SHA 1 from legacy partners during a transition period, but you must not generate new messages using SHA 1 for those implementations that have moved to RFC 4130 BIS, they're BIS compliant. And that's just, and when I say you can send to the legacy and you can receive from the legacy, but for new implementations, you must move to the newer hash algorithms for those that have moved to support of SHA 256, 384, and 512. Okay, next slide, please.
You had some people in the queue. Did you want to answer those or keep going?
Either we ask questions now or we wait till the end. You decide if we want to go slide by slide or move or handle them at the end of the section. I can answer questions now if you'd like.
I mean, if they're relevant to the slide, I think it would make sense to stay on it.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Eric, I think perhaps you answered that, but the must not generate for SHA 1 is problematic if we are going to handle legacy systems, since the spec actually says you must use SHA 1 in some instances. So perhaps we should say must not generate except with a legacy system or something like that.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say. When you're trying to interopt with an RFC 4130. And what we're going to do is, as we move forward, is have an AS2 version that says that when I'm at either 1.3 or 2.0, that says that I'm able to handle the new hash values. But
Okay,
if
fair
it's
enough.
still at 1.2, then you would operate as you would have in the past.
Okay,
So
the EDIINT version basically states what the system should do. So if the EDIINT version of a message that comes in says that it's old, then you can still use SHA-1.
Right. Yes. That's. I think that'll be our driving indicator is a version, and then you would work off of that.
Asger Schmidt, the problem with that approach is that it requires the AS2 code to be psychic, because there's no handshaking in the AS2 protocol. So when you send an AS2 message to an endpoint, you do not know which version that endpoint is running.
That is true.
You can figure it out over time and adjust your configuration, but if the spec says that if your code ever sends anything in SHA-1 to a system that actually supports 1.3, then you're not compliant. Then nobody's code is ever going to be compliant. We have to be able to do that.
So there maybe we try to firm it up or discuss as a group. There's some things that either we can do that out of band, or in a future slide, and I don't know if we'll get to it today, I'm proposing maybe an AS2 get, where in the beginning you as an initial handshake with your trading partner, you send it a get, it sends you back all of its capabilities and its version number. So that's a setup in the beginning, and then in that trading partnership its capabilities, and from there on you can decide. So you're taking the psychic out of it by asking in the very beginning and setting up that trading relationship in that way.
Yeah, but surely that only applies to modern implementations. That's not going to help with 4130 implementations, right?
If the 4130 have an AS2 version number already, you already know their capability. Yes?
Yes, but in many cases, this requires that you have first received a message from them.
Okay. Normally, though, when you're setting up your initial relationship with a trading partner, exchanging certificates and so forth, you're discussing with them the capabilities, and that's out of band.
Yes, but the people you're discussing this with often do not know the technical implementation details of whatever third-party platform they're using AS2 with.
Okay. What do you propose?
I don't know. All I'm saying is that the must not generate is problematic in the extreme, because as far as I see, it fully breaks backwards compatibility.
Okay, well, maybe we say should not generate. What I'm
That
saying,
would
though,
be my.
is SHA-1 has been deprecated, and just similar to MD5. Nobody, if you were to do MD5 at this point, I'm going to guarantee you that your JVM is not going to even allow you to accept it. I've seen that in the past.
I have never actually seen MD5 used in the wild.
Well, I think if you tried to use it, it would probably break. So, and I'm thinking eventually that is going to happen with SHA-1. Maybe not in the near term.
Eventually, yes. But the problem is that SHA-1 and MD5 are the only two algorithms in 4130.
Agree.
And we cannot simply deprecate both of them, because then backwards compatibility is off the table.
Okay. Agree. And let's table that and talk about maybe changing the must to a should.
Mark here. I think it's not about must or should. It's actually what we're talking here is only about, AS2 version 1 and AS2 version 2. That's we're talking about. And I think, as Andy wrote in the chat, there's multiple ways to solve the capability announcement and negotiations, and that could be thought of later, but or soon. But the point here is we need to be clear about the AS2 version 2. I'll say that way. AS2 version 2 requirements. That's we need to be careful on actually making those two all together, because we end up into those discussions.
Okay. Does anybody else? I see another hand up.
Hey, this is Bojdar. I would take a much harder stance on using broken algorithms. So I would keep must not. But for the sake of time, let's continue and we can discuss that later.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Can we keep moving, or does anybody have any other comments? Okay. All right. Then next slide, please. All right. These are the content encryption algorithms. So in RFC 4130, there were no explicit requirements. Triple DES was widely used. RC2 was mentioned. So in RFC 4130 BIS, AES 128 CBC is a must support. This is the baseline. AES 256 CBC is a should support, and AES 128 GCM and AES 256 GCM are recommended for authenticated encryption. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to hear a bunch of okays. Triple DES and RC2 are explicitly deprecated. Implementations must not generate messages encrypted with these algorithms unless the partner is a legacy application. AES GCM is particularly important because it provides authenticated encryption, both confidentiality and integrity in a single operation. This is what pairs with SMIME 4.0 auth enveloped data structure we discussed earlier. I know the hands are up, and this is probably the same conversation we're going to have as with hashing. We're saying that triple DES is a must not generate. Maybe we make it should as well, but go ahead, hands up.
Bojdar again. I would keep the broken algorithms must not. I would suggest the AES 256 to be must support. Some systems may need to operate in FIPS 140-3 mode, and this will be required.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Eric here. Actually, in this case, I don't have a problem with the must not generate, except if you're talking with a legacy system. So I guess we are on the same page here. My question is more about GCM, because as I understand it, the main feature here is you want to say performance, right? By doing two operations in one pass, which is kind of fine. But I don't really see performance as a key driver in these systems. We have some systems that have pretty high load, but by scaling out, the performance issue of the encryption is not a big spot anywhere that I've seen. So if we can keep the system simpler and not make too many changes, and thus don't introduce it, and keep two simple operations instead of combining them, I might actually be for that in the interest of getting this easier to adopt. But I don't have a big problem with it either. So just Just noting that part.
Okay. Just to note that those two algorithms, and there'll be a future slide on this, those two algorithms are specific to the auth envelope data structure, which is part of SMIME 4.0.
And that's why I raise it as well, because I don't see these encryption things as a big thing for our product,
Right.
but I do see switching to SMIME 4 as a big thing. We won't do that easily because the SMIME library we are using is not ready for it. And it may never be, perhaps. So,
okay.
Yeah.
We can discuss that as a group and decide whether we want to make SMIME 4.0. I know there was some discussion in the E-list about SMIME 4.0 and moving to it. Maybe we get a vote or a decision and not make SMIME 4.0 a must. Maybe I should. But let me finish the presentation and we can get a list of all of these things and then we can discuss more. Okay, thanks. All right, moving on. In fact, this will address some of your questions, Eric, and others. So we have the two encryption approaches. So on the left, we have the envelope data from SMIME 3.x. The use cases is traditional encryption with AES CBC or triple DES, and providing backward compatibility with the RFC 4130 partners. This provides encryption only and no integrity protection. You must add a separate signature. Two operations are required, the sign plus encrypt. You would use this when you must support legacy partners or when you're using AES CBC or a similar non-authenticated encryption algorithm. On the right, we have the auth envelope data from SMIME 4.0. The use case is the modern authenticated encryption with AES GCM or AES CCM. This provides encryption plus integrity in one operation. It has better performance and stronger security. You'd use this when both partners support SMIME 4.0. You're using AES GCM or AES CCM. This is the recommended encryption algorithm for new implementations that are 4130 BIS compliant. The decision rule is your choice of algorithm depends on which structure to use. If you use an AES GCM, you'd use the auth envelope data. If you use an AES CBC, use the envelope data with a separate signature. Is that clear? Okay, so let's move on and get to the next one, which is the key transport agreement algorithms table. Right. So key transport algorithms determine how you encrypt the symmetric content encryption key. So for key transport implementations must support RSA with a minimum 2048-bit key length. That's the baseline. Implementation should support RSA OEAP, which is defined in RFC 3560 and provides secure padding. Implementations may optionally support ECDH for elliptic curve key agreement. Next slide. Digital signature algorithms follow the same pattern as the hash algorithms. RFC 4130 allowed RSA with MD5 and recommended RSA with SHA-1. There was no mention of the stronger options. RFC 4130 BIS deprecates MD5 and SHA-1 signatures. You must not generate them for 4130 BIS implementations. RSA with 256 is a must support. RSA with SHA-384 or SHA-512 is a should support. The pattern's consistent across all algorithm categories. It deprecates the cryptographically broken algorithms, requires modern, secure alternatives, and recommends even stronger options for high security environments. Next slide, please. So how do you actually migrate from legacy to modern algorithms? We're not expecting you to flip a switch overnight. We're proposing a phased approach. In phase one, enable modern algorithms now. Add support for SHA-256, AES GCM, and RSA OEAP to your implementation. but continue accepting legacy algorithms from existing partners. This is where most implementations should be today. In phase 2, prefer modern algorithms for updated implementations. When you onboard a new trading partner and determine they support RFC 4130 BIS, negotiate the modern algorithms from the start. Don't set up new relationships using SHA-1 or Triple DES if they support the newer algorithms, but maintain legacy support for long-term established partners who haven't upgraded yet. Phase 3, deprecate the legacy gradually. Work with your remaining legacy partners to upgrade them over time. Set reasonable sunset dates for weak algorithms based on your partner's ecosystem. Document the risks if partners refuse to upgrade. Eventually drop support for weak algorithms entirely, but do it thoughtfully. Appendix B provides detailed interoperability guidance for each phase, including algorithm negotiation strategies and fallback approaches. Next slide, please. So we're at the discussion points. So let's pause here and talk a little bit more about the algorithm requirements on questions we still haven't dealt with. So do the must, should, may levels feel right? Are we being too aggressive in deprecating SHA-1 and Triple DES, not aggressive enough? Should SHA 384 be a must instead of a should? And should any algorithms be moved between categories? For example, AES 256 be must instead of should. We didn't mention AES 192, but we do test that as a viable algorithm in the Drummond AS2 interoperability testing. Should we add it? And does the proposed migration strategy sound acceptable? Is this three-phased approach with Appendix B guidance practical for your organizations? Eric, want to this is time for us all to discuss. So first in the queue, go ahead.
Eric, please go ahead.
Sorry, I was talking, but to myself. I was muted. Sorry. We do have a customer that we tried to move on to the modern algorithms a while back. We tried to use AAS and we tried to use SHA-256 instead of SHA-1. And while we got through, almost all were able to use modern algorithms, there was a substantial number of partners that could not. I think this customer has something like 100 trading partners, and several of them are very big organizations that still use old algorithms and could not move. So I think we will find out that there are many critical partners that will not move from Triple DES in a while and will not move from SHA-1 either. So I think it's really important that a compliant application may still use these algorithms, SHA-1 and Triple DES, with older implementations. Mm-hmm. I'm fine to use modern algorithms with other systems that are on the BIS standard, but there must be it must be acceptable in the standard to be able to speak old algorithms with older implementations.
Right, and that's what we're saying, that you would work with those that are still on the legacy platform and then eventually move over time. There's got to be a time when you would migrate, even if it's...
Well, I think it's hard for us as a standards organizations to tell the customers and their partners when they must upgrade. So, right, I think I made my point.
Sure, and I'm on your side. I want to make sure that it's written in a way that agrees with everybody, and we can discuss this in the e-list as well if you and come to some sort of agreement so that the spec feels right for everybody. Okay.
Hi. So I'd like to push back on your OAEP requirement.
Okay.
OAP is definitely an improvement over RSA PKCS1 version 1.5.
Right.
but the marketplace never embraced it. I bet you can't get a certificate using RSA OEP. The CAs just never went there, but they did go to elliptic curves, so I suggest you just drop that.
As long as we get buy-in with that, I have no problem doing it. I'm making a note. And then we can, after this meeting, I can try to get an outline of everything we've discussed and get some more discussion on it. Thank you. All right, Asker?
Hi, yes. I mean, our situation is we provide an integration platform. That integration platform has AS2 capability, but we have hundreds of customers who each have their own system running our software. And for some of them, we set up their connections and stuff, and for some of them, they do it themselves. But there's no way that we can push all our customers to push all of their partners to upgrade their AS2 frameworks. That's just not a thing.
Okay.
So how are we going to ever claim that our AS2 framework is compliant? Because we kind of have to keep the backwards compatibility. And we cannot guarantee, because as I said, many of our customers, they do the negotiation with their partners on their own. We have no influence over how they configure it. We can only influence what is possible to configure.
Maybe we do is make it as a recommendation, and again, the whole idea with this specification is to remain backward compatibility with, and I'm putting in air quotes here, legacy systems. The new BIS specification can continue to be backward compatible with the what we call the deprecated algorithms, even if no one's using them. If we continue to keep that capability in the newer implementations and only do it for continue to have that backward compatibility, but prefer the new algorithms for those that can support it. We can change our language a little bit if that helps with our adoption.
I really think it does help. It is the must not that is problematic for me, because that says to me that any system that sends anything in SHA-1 is not compliant. End of story.
Okay. I will take that under advisement and I'll make notes here, and we can maybe relax that restriction as long as it's agreeable with everyone.
That said, I think we should heavily encourage using
Agreed.
newer stuff. It's just that, yeah, only the compliance issue I have an issue with.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Yeah, Mark, here, I think we're confused. Well, confusing may be a too strong word, but let's say confusing. We're confusing two topics here. One is, the new standard, and the new standard should be, strong algorithms and all that stuff. The new stuff. What is the problem is how to negotiate, how to know, how to configure, the other peers with the old and the new. And IETF has been, and the internet has been very good, not perfect, but very good in handling those situations. We have HTTP 0.1, 0.9, HTTP 1, HTTP 1.1, HTTP 2, HTTP 3, and we deal with that. okay, it's a bit different because it's kind of messaging thing, but so maybe the example is not perfect, but my point here is we need to be very clear, because what I'm hearing now is that people think about compliance and certification and stuff, and they see, one line that says, must not, but that's, I think we're kind of it's because we have two specs in one, and maybe we should really kind of only talk about the new spec and then discuss separately somewhere else in another document, or maybe anyway, something like that, where we would be discussing moving from the old spec to the new one. And that would clear those issues out, because when I hear we should keep MD5 or SHA-1 or something like that, that's going to be, it's not going to, it will be blocked by at the ISG level pretty soon, even at the working group last call. So I think it's a question of separating the two specifications, in the sense of a specification that is kind of a clarifications to the old standard, and a new standard which is kind of clear and by itself. That's my guess suggestion.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I wanted to say something very similar, that these are two different problems of what do we expect a group of servers that implement the BIS RFC to behave? How do we expect them to behave? And then the other question is, how do we migrate and increase adoption? And I would imagine our server to be able to support the new protocol and comply with strict standards. And if we're dealing with an old partner, we can support the old RFC with the older algorithms. But for the new, we use only the not broken algorithms.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
Right, I reacted on that a bit. I think that is very hard. For me as a vendor, I would like to read the document and implement what it says, and that should be kind of standalone. So if I follow the instructions in the AS2 BIS standard, I should end up with an AS2 product that can talk to all other certified AS2 products. And if we do this with two different documents, one document that says how we should handle old servers and one document that says we should handle new servers, then we will end up with a new AS2 product that can talk to other new servers, but there are no new servers, but that cannot talk to the old servers because the standard didn't mention them. So as an implementer, you would have to both read the old document and the new document. I think very few vendors will really do that. So I think it's really vital, if this should fly, to look at how to handle something that will work with both a legacy AS2 1.0 server that nobody has touched for years, but that is still super important for some very important partner, and to handle the new things. So it should not say must not do something that we must do to keep the thing flying. It can say must not if the partner is a new server or something like that. But it must still be possible to follow the new standard and talk to a legacy partner, in my view.
Okay, thank you. Agree. We'll figure out how to do that. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on? All right. Next slide, please. Okay, so in this next section, we'll cover protocol details around HTTP and headers. Next slide, please. In section 5 of the spec, it's been enhanced with specific operational guidance. The HTTP version support, HTTP 1.1 remains the baseline. It is a must support. HTTP 2 and HTTP 3 may be supported, but it's not required for interoperability. The TLS requirement is explicitly stated. Implementations must support TLS 1.2 or higher. Sections 5.4 includes HTTP response status codes. The 102 processing response is now documented as optional and informational. It tells the sender, I'm working on your message. The 204 no content response is now the preferred response for an asynchronous MDN acknowledgement. It also states that you must return, not in a capital must, but that you must return responses as quickly as possible instead of leaving the connection open and risking timeout errors. Section 5.5 includes retry guidance and is also part of the, and I'm air quoting again, the AS2 reliability feature. We'll discuss that later. It includes explicit retry attempt guidance and based on status codes. That is 400 level errors, don't retry, these are client errors and retrying won't help. And then there's 500 level errors, retry with an exponential back off scheme. These are server errors with and maybe transient. And then there's connection failures. And with those, implement retry logic with a back off strategy. So this operational guidance was missing from RFC 4130 and implementers have been handling it inconsistently. So the idea was put it in one place so everybody works off the same documentation. Next slide, please. This is an important addition in the AS2 version header. In the original, it only included AS2 version 1.0 and 1.1. Later, an AS2 version 1.2 was introduced as part of RFC 6017 for the EDIINT features header, but it was never documented. So in the updated RFC 4130 BIS, we've added a reference to AS2 version 1.2 and have added AS2 version 1.3 or possibly 2.0, which we will need working group input on. The purpose of the new version signals support for RFC 4130 BIS features. When a partner sees version 1.3 or 2.0, they know this implementation supports the modern algorithm support, SHA-256, AES, GCM, and multiple recipient encryption. SMTP remnants have been removed. It includes additional MDN and error values that we'll discuss in an upcoming slide, and it implements usage of the AS2 product header that will be discussed on the next slide. Using this new header value, partners can detect the version and adapt accordingly. Next slide, please. This is a completely new header in RFC 4130 BIS, one of the most significant protocol additions. The format is AS2 product with a vendor name : version. So the example is Acme AS2 : 5.1. The purpose is for implementation tracking, which vendors are implementing which features, debugging and troubleshooting which implementation is having this issue, interoperability testing for building compatibility matrices, vendor identification to provide ecosystem visibility. This follows the HTTP user agent conventions. Any questions on that? Next slide, please. And then, as I've already mentioned a little bit, RFC 4130 BIS has a brief mention of the AS2 GET method, which is a new optional capability. The purpose is for initial setup and certificate exchange between trading partners. Use cases is partner discovery. What AS2 features do you support? Capability negotiation. Can we use SEM? Can we use AS2 restart? And it provides certificate retrieval during the initial setup. The method is a GET request sent to the partner's AS2 endpoint, returning capabilities, supported features through the EDIINT features header, and and the certificates. We're making this an optional feature. It's not required for AS2 operation, but it would be useful for automating partner onboarding. This is about discovery and automation of the trading partner setup process. We haven't built out any methodology for the AS2 GET response in the specification, but are just proposing it as a possible solution for now. If we get enough buy-in, we can work on adding more details to the specification with the specific details. Next slide, please. So let's pause for a second. I see already a hand up on those discussion points. We can go through. These are some of the ideas of what questions I had for the AS2 version header, whether it should be 1.3 or 2.0. Questions on the AS2 product header. Should it be a required for new versions? And then for the AS2 GET method, is this something that you would implement? Mark, go ahead and ask your question, and then we can talk more about some of the points that I've talked about so far.
Continuing on what Andy wrote in the chat some time ago, I think the dot well known will be the right way to enable your third point, which is actually also a GET method, but a GET method with a specific URI, well-known, identified stuff. So I would suggest that you may look into the dot well known. I just looked at it's RC 8615. So I would suggest to look at this, and many protocols are actually using it for that exact purpose.
The only problem is, then do we require legacy to also include that?
Well, if they don't, then that, well, you know, we can go through this, but essentially when there's nothing, then there's no conclusion you can take, and you probably default to the previous thing,
Okay.
right? So
I'll read to the spec and see how we can get it into our. I'll read through that RFC and see if we can include that. Thank you. So anyone else? So what is the group consensus? The arguments for staying with a version 1.3 over a 2.0. If 1.3, this would be like an incremental evolution with an emphasis on backward compatibility, as opposed to a 2.0, which is the major modernization, moving away from the old RFC 4130 BIS with less backward compatibility. So that's one of the things that we need to come as a group to agree on, which we want to support. And then with the AS2 product header, is this, I know that this, I think, came from Eric in the originally, is adding this so that your product is able to automatically detect which partner you're working with, so you can flip switches and handle things that you know are specific to that version of the product. This, though, the concern though is this would be an additional implementation burden. And then the other one was the AS2 GET method. What we're saying that we're going to go with something beside the AS2 GET method, we can just abandon that if that's not something that we want to do. But we can do is get all this stuff written down and discuss further in the mailing list, because I think it needs to extend to not just the people in this group today, but the entire AS2 community. So it probably is a better idea to get all these questions out so that we can discuss to the broader community. Eric, go ahead.
Yes, just one thing about the well-known page, and that is that looking at the current AS2 stack, it deals a lot with XML. I think the well-known page used JSON instead. So that would add another technology stack. I mean, it's not difficult in any way, but it's one additional thing to add. So possibly looking at the SEM standard and how it bundles these certificates might be a more AS2-centric way of implementing the AS2 GET. But either way, we'll probably build it. I mean, it's not that difficult, so we will include it in our part. I don't think 1.3 or 2.0 is a big thing, which we chose. I would vote for 2.0 because it feels like a big change all in all, but no strong view really.
Okay, thank you. Esker?
Yes, for me, the first point on this slide is the central one. Are we doing 1.3 or are we doing 2.0? I think both are necessary, but not at the same time. I think we have to start with 1.3 and then do 2.0. I think if we do 2.0 now, adoption will be very below par. Simply because we don't provide any path for doing it incrementally. It would have to be all in one go, which essentially means implementers would have to make a separate code base for 2.0 and switch between the two. And given it would also kind of signal the abandonment of all existing AS2 solutions.
Okay.
I think we need to provide a 1.3 just to get the current AS2 landscape in line, so to speak, to begin with. And then I'm all for making a 2.0. But I think it has to come later. That is just my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Point taken. Anyone else? Okay. Let's keep moving. The next section is feature documentation. These are existing optional features that vendors have requested that we document. Next slide. So let me be clear about our philosophy for feature documentation. We're not inventing new features, we're documenting features. These are features that multiple vendors have already implemented in production that have been proven useful over the years of real world use, that were requested by the user community and that have existing specifications, either RFCs or internet drafts. Our approach is to reference existing specifications where we aren't duplicating their content. We have marked everything as optional. We are not changing the core AS2 requirements. We're providing interoperability guidance for when partners have different capabilities. And this will help new implementers discover these capabilities. So the features that we're documenting are certificate exchange messaging, AS2 reliability, AS2 restart, compression, file name preservation, and multiple attachments. All are optional, all already implemented by multiple vendors, and all are requested by the community. Next slide, please. Okay, starting with SEM, Certificate Exchange Messaging. It's defined in the draft METRS certificate exchange. Purpose is for automated certificate exchange between trading partners. It provides certificate renewal without manual intervention, and it provides support for certificate rotation. The status in the RFC 4130 BIS is referencing this as an optional feature. Many large implementations are already supporting it, and interoperability considerations have been documented. The benefit, this is going to become increasingly important. It reduces manual certificate management overhead, and it enables frequent key rotation for better security. We'll discuss this further when we get to the certificate lifetime slide. Next slide, please. AS2 reliability is defined in draft Duker AS2 reliability. This is an internet draft that's been widely implemented. Its capabilities include checkpoint and resume for interrupted transfers. Failed HTTP transmissions in the 500 level range can be automatically retried. The ability to retransmit a message when an asynchronous MDN has been has not been received, and connection failures. So this is particularly useful for unreliable network connections. The RFC 4130 BIS treatment includes informative references to this draft. Implementations may support these features. It's optional. Guidance is provided for detecting peer support through the EDIINT features header. This is how implementations can advertise, I support AS2 reliability to their partners. Next slide, please.
Hey, Deborah.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out that we're pretty much at time now, and we're going to have another interim meeting
Okay.
to get through all of your slides. I just want to make sure that we're not rushing through right now.
Okay.
So we'll cut the presentation now, if that's all right, and then we'll look to schedule a interim meeting sometime in April.
Okay. In the meantime, we'll try to get, if you have a recording of this, and I think you do, we can get all of our notes so far documented and continue to discuss these on the list.
Yes, I think that's a good way to handle it. Mark, did you have any other comments?
No, I think we had a very good interim meeting. There was a lot of stuff to discuss, and that's fine that we haven't gone through all the slides. And that just says we need more work, and we'll schedule. And it seems that the high bandwidth we're having now is actually very useful. So another interim meeting probably in April would make sense, given the IETF week that happens in a couple of weeks. So the co-chairs will schedule another interim meeting, I guess probably the same time, the same length, and we'll go through the rest of it. Yes, the recording will be available, and also the notes. I don't know if others have been, but I've been trying to do some notes in the official notes URL. So you may want to look at it and see if there's any changes or adding new text or note.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So thank you again, everybody, for being here. Really enjoyed the discussion, and I'll be sending out an email about the interim meeting in April.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Bye, everyone.